All right. It should go over in a second. Did you want to see? I should have showed you this, Johnny. That's okay. All right. It's going to say you're not on it, but you are on. Okay. All right. All right. Let's record this to the cloud. All right, everybody. Usually I say like, hey, it's Whiskey Wednesday, but it's not. It's Whiskey Wednesday gone wild, and it's right after Cinco de Mayo, which always seems to happen on the 5th, and everybody drinks tequila. So I figured, why don't we drink tequila tonight? It's the revenge of the 6th? No, it's the 7th, but we'll take it anyways. We're gonna drink some tequila tonight. We got Joe Nemchek is here, who's gonna go through the whole lineup, and it's make sure I get this. Alma Del Jaguar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said it with an accent. Did you notice that?
Well,
Jaguar.
Jaguar. Jaguar.
Oh, is it Jaguar? Is it Jaguar? Because it's the
Well,
name?
you could say it in
Because
Spanish.
we say Julio's not. It's Julio's with a hard J.
So this would be Jaguar.
Jaguar.
With a hard J here
at
at Julio.
At
Julio's.
Julio's.
At Julio's.
Yeah, at Julio's. No, but this is really great because this this is evergreen content. People can watch this whenever they want to. But this weekend, May 10th, we also have our tequila rosé tasting. We're going to do a bunch of tequilas. Y'all going to be here, right? Or somebody's pouring this, right? Nick? Not on the list. Well, that's okay. That's okay. We're doing it tonight, so that'll work out, sort of. But let's go. It's such an interesting label. I'm going to start off with saying this. It's such an interesting label. It's like really almost anything else on the shelf. No one names their thing after a Jaguar or a Jaguar, but there's a reason behind that too. So can you give us a little bit of like background of the distillery and really the label of this tequila?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you all for being here.
Oh, don't thank us yet.
Seriously.
We'll see how this goes.
So about the brand, about the label, really the whole project starts with true authenticity. Macaulay Williams is the founder, and he has an uncle, Rick Williams, who's roughly 78. And about 29 years ago, Uncle Rick took a picture of a Jaguar with a hard J.
Yep.
And became enchanted with the species and learned about its position in Mesoamerican culture.
I think the first thing you should say, and lived.
And lived.
And lived after you took the picture.
Well, yes, and lived after he took the picture. So Uncle Rick, who I've met, is a really, really dynamic man. And he sort of checked out and bought 68,000 acres of land in the Sierra Madre Mountains of Mexico, just over the border, very close to Tucson. And he learned that there were some endangered jaguars on this land, so he purchased it, started something called the Northern Jaguar Reserve. And today, it's 188,000 acres. It's the largest privately held land trust of its kind. And today, there's 97 jaguars, wild jaguars, on this land. There's no fences of any kind. This is, nature.
Yeah, this isn't like like we all get enthralled with like Tiger King or anything like that when we during COVID and stuff like that. This is actually they're in there. He bought the land to protect them in their natural habitat
and study them.
Yeah.
There's a full-time biologist. There's a team that's there that studies them. And here's the killer thing is that 7 jaguars have crossed the border in addition to those 97, and they're now in the mountains of Tucson, Arizona. And they're being studied by the University of Arizona. So the label really comes from the journey that Uncle Rick took. And Macaulay always really idolized his uncle. He was kind of the black sheep of the family out there. And Macaulay had this moment in life where he just bought a one-way ticket to Mexico to hang out with his uncle. And he had a bourbon brand and wanted to start something new. and was with his uncle, and it just dawned on him while he was spending time with his uncle. He goes, my God, like soul of the Jaguar, heart of the Jaguar. Alma means soul or heart of the Jaguar. Uncle Rick, like, look what you've done. Like, you're you're making the world better. So he said to his uncle, look, I'd like to make a tequila and call it Alma del Jaguar in your honor, and we can spread the word of jaguar conservation in North America, help protect the species. It's good for the environment, and we'll donate a portion of our proceeds to your organization to help along the way and be authentic. And immediately, Uncle Rick struck back and said, well, if you're going to do this, then you need to find a producer that's also good to the earth, because you're not going to offset this by like, hey, let's mass produce tequila and use fertilizer and this and that. And it didn't go that way. So under that direction, they went across Jalisco. They flew down to Jalisco, where tequila is made. Jalisco is very much, if everybody knows the champagne references, if you will. So, okay, tequila could only be made in Jalisco. There's roughly 200 varietals, if you will, of agave. You could only make it from Blue Weber agave within Jalisco and tequila, and call it tequila. They went across and met with a variety of producers, and they were discussing them among a bar one night. And this bartender, a guy by the name of Mario, overheard them and said, hey, I hear what you're saying, and I think, have you heard of Nom 1414? Oh yeah, that's like, that's a legendary distillery. Like, yeah. He goes, well, I'm very good friends with the Vivancos, and I want to do an introduction. So he makes a phone call.
Isn't it interesting though? I hate to disrupt your story, but isn't it interesting when you start talking about actually doing something good, that it's almost like good karma just follows you, and all of a sudden you tend to meet people that will help you on your journey without knowing that they're going to help you on your journey. And it's just like having this whole thing is like, if he had gone in there and talked about anything else, about like, he was doing a celebrity brand or something like that, this bartender would have said word one.
That's a very interesting.
But you're talking about how you're doing this and what you're doing and what your plan is to set out. And also this guy goes, I know like the best tequila maker, like one of the best tequila makers here. Yeah, would you like to meet him?
Yeah, in the Highlands.
Right.
And which, by the way, are the neighbors are Tapatio, Tequila Ocho, Mi Gente. All right, there's a couple good ones.
There's a couple good ones.
Yeah, a couple good ones up there.
So I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just think it's important, like, the people to know if you put good out there, good comes back.
And good on us. Mario is working for our organization in the operations capacity, representing our brand at the distillery now to help us with everything. I see Mario once a week on a Google Meet situation. And
so he takes it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but then he takes your uncle, Uncle Rick, and he takes him to meet everybody.
Yes. So Uncle Rick and Macaulay then drive up, and they meet with Sergio. And this is the story told to me by Uncle Rick and by Macaulay. Macaulay starts speaking, and he makes a nice appeal, and then Uncle Rick, who I have met, and he has a Johnny Cash zen. He really does. He's like, my name's Rick. And you're like, it is. Yeah, it sure is. You say that very definitively. And I don't know, there's comfort in that. So Rick gets up, talked about what he was doing for the last 28 or so years, talks about his passion for North American Jaguars. And Sergio just gets up and says, the hair on my back is standing up. Let's do this together. You're my guy. Let's go. Let's create this together. And the coolest thing about the authenticity of this whole story is really how the brand launched. And I'll get to the label because this goes back into the label. But how the brand launched. It launched very modestly. We're only 2 years old. I mean, I met Uncle Rick roughly 2 years ago in Tucson, Arizona, as he was annually raising private funds for the Northern Jaguar Project in Tucson. And at the time, we only had the Blanco. Obviously, you distill the Blanco, you put it in a bottle, you ship it.
Right.
And we had the Reposado. And this takes 6 months aging. We'll get into all that after. But so these were the two things. And when we would introduce the brand, well, where's your añejo? Well,
Not old enough.
how would we have an añejo? Certainly, we could have bought some stock from Mr. Vivanco and had a wonderful añejo. But everything about what we'll discuss about the quality attributes of this was very intentional and very a way to put nature in a bottle, for nature, by nature, for you, to just kind of bring that all the way through. So the bottle, one of the things they thought about with the bottle and the label was to first and foremost is obviously represent the cause, Jaguar. And what I love about it is that there's Don Tequila and there's Casa Tequila. Alma Del Jaguar, Alma Del Jaguar. It's you could see the label, you could remember it, right? It's very distinctive. The label itself is made from recycled materials. It's made from agave fiber. Okay. The glue holding the label is made from a corn glue, a gum from corn. The bottle itself, every bottle is just a recycled bunch of Coca-Cola bottles. Right,
the little the little green tinge.
Exactly, and then the natural cork, made from recycled cork from Mexican wine. Even this little bit of plastic that looks like plastic is made from vegetables and vegetal and can biodegrade.
It'll actually biodegrade.
Yep, the whole entire package, inclusive of the estate-grown agave distillate, is made within an 85-mile radius in support of local communities and the earth. So it's a very audacious, earth-forward product. And as we taste through these, hopefully you'll taste the essence of that effort.
And we should also say that the Mexican government allows so much additives to be put into tequila, and you can still call it additive free.
Well, I mean, correct, because 1% by volume could be, things they're not going to hurt you, but flavors,
caramel coloring,
coloring.
Well, again, it's caramel coloring is actually not good for you.
Okay,
caramel coloring is actually not good for you. But what I'm getting at is basic. You're using the basic ingredients: water, yeast, agave.
Hard stop.
That's it.
That's it. It's agave, water, yeast, and in the case of the Reposado and the Añejo, obviously wood.
Right.
Wood. So oak barrels, and we choose to use American oak ex bourbon, French oak ex Santa Barbara Chardonnay. And why? Because Santa Barbara Chardonnay is a little sweeter than many of its French counterparts. So it gives us an ability to provide that really butterscotch halo, in the Reposado and in the Añejo, which we'll taste.
All right. So let's get started, because you cannot make anything good unless you make a good Blanco.
Wow, that's very well said. So everything, I'm going to move this Nocturna aside for a second, because it's different than these. And it's not just because it's 101 proof and these are 80 proof. This is 100% wild yeast.
It's a little bit different.
A little bit different. So we start.
This is the main core brand.
Right. So these are all 20% champagne yeast distillate and 80% wild yeast distillate, 80 proof. Okay. So these two products are essentially this with wood. and we'll talk about it. But let's start with the Blanco.
That's it. Slot 1 for everybody
Slot 1
on your tray.
Okay, so
I love the smell of this one.
thank you. I do too. I mean, the thing that just jumps off the scent is this sort of fresh grated orange citrus. It's very, tequila has, I think tequila scent has a lane. Like every tequila. I love G4, for instance, and when I smell G4, I smell pineapple. I don't know why, but that's the fruit that comes to mind that I want to pair it with. If I'm just going to put it in club soda, I want a pineapple with it. Here, I get a lot of orange citrus. And so I'll tell you the journey, how it's made and sort of why there's orange citrus, which is really coming from your wild yeast side. So first we start with the Vivanco Ranch. Its average height is about 6,200 feet above sea level, from about 5,000 to just over 7,000, and is blessed with an artisanal well for water that goes 850 feet deep, and it's surrounded by volcanic rock. The whole region is known for its minerality in the water, high salinity, but this well really has this amazing, almost Sancerre-esque, if you're familiar with Sauvignon Blancs, California Sauvignon Blanc, Sancerre.
Flinty.
Yeah, flinty, deep, almost chiseled like down to a record needle. Is how my palate kind of feels it. So the agave grows there in this wonderful environment. Never sees any kind of chemicals, no fertilizers, no pesticides. Everything is done naturally, hand harvested. At which point we rest the agave for about a week. They leave about this much of the green fiber onto the agave. They don't completely cut it bare because there's minerality in that. There's flavor in that. And then we bring it into a traditional brick oven. And that traditional brick oven is interesting. A lot of times when you're in a brick oven, you'll go 18 to 24 hours, and then you'll go to press. We take a brisket-like approach where you're slow and low, and we go 54 hours. Why? We want to maximize the juiciness that those ripe agave will yield by concentrating the sugars in that slow, low kind of, if you've ever made a brisket, you know.
I also like put it to like grilling pineapple.
Yeah.
Like when you get like pineapple and it's ripe and then you start grilling it and it all of a sudden becomes like those sugars like caramelize, they become sweeter.
Great point.
And they sort of like that bakey goodness comes out and it sort of just oozes out.
Absolutely.
It's so good.
I like one.
I think you might have got me on that trap back when you started talking about pineapple, but that is what I always think about.
Yeah.
That process when we do it that low as that process.
One year we'd like grilled peaches. Like this was like, I don't know, there was like peaches and we're like, the grill was on real low and we're like hanging around. We're like, what are those peaches doing? And then we're eating the peaches at night and going, this is like the greatest peach I've ever had. It like, but it's that process. So we take all of that and when they're done, we then have to press to get the juice out. And we only do a single press on a roller mill. More times you press, just like great olive oil, you extract some form of bitterness. And so we've experimented, and it was the single press with this rested, beautiful 54-hour slow roasted agave. The juice pours out. And at this point, this is where it gets super cool. That juice goes into two different directions. Over here, open air stainless steel container. We throw some champagne yeast in there to start fermentation. Hold. Put the agave fibers in. Next, open air stainless steel. We don't do anything. We let nature take its course. And as luck would have it, there's many citrus groves in the area, floral, etc. All that's in the wild, in the yeast. and the wild yeast falls into that, starts its own fermentation naturally, agave fibers in. When it's time to distill, keep them separate. We distill in small copper pot stills with copper coils. What's great about copper is it has a neutralizing effect on many things. It's almost
And
its own.
sulfuric out.
Yeah, it like neutralizes everything. So twice each batch. Oh, and when we distill, we actually put fibers in as well.
Okay.
So again, it's always punching nature into every process to its maximum effect. And now we have 100% wild yeast distillate finished and 100% champagne yeast distillate.
You know what's funny when you say it like wild yeast, and we always think of like, well, it could be anything, right?
Right.
When you're leaving it up to nature, nature could throw anything at you. But what a lot of people don't understand is the wild yeast in that area is very consistent.
Yep.
It's the same. It's pretty much the same yeast all the time, even though it's wild. It's the same thing when you see like if anybody's ever seen pictures of a Burgundian wine a winery, they don't clean anything. There's cobwebs in the corner, this stuff, because they don't want to mess with the natural environment with that yeast lives in, because they don't use anything but the wild yeast. But what it is that it's the same yeast all the time. So like sometimes we say wild yeast, everybody thinks, wow, anything could be crazy and anything could happen, but it's not like that. If you have you have an environment that's producing a certain type of yeast.
Well, the only difference I would say between a classic, I love Burgundy, by the way. That's my favorite wine on earth. Last sip. You harvest wine at relatively the same time every year. I mean, it might vary 2 weeks.
Right.
In Burgundy, for instance, right? So
they call it the harvest.
Right.
So let's leave it at that.
Right. So your temperature is relatively the same. Your humidity is relatively the same. And how fast something will ferment, if you will, at a temperature, right?
Right.
Okay, it's that time every year. Whereas with tequila and the inside of our bottle, if you were to turn the bottle around on the inside, I could see with this one. This one says 29, the date, 8 August 23. And it says 8:35 a.m. So here we know relative to this distillate that you're looking at an August fermentation.
Right.
So where are you there in August versus spring, fall? If you say spring is dry and warm, fall is after rainy season, it's a little cooler, damp. So how quickly does fermentation take place? It might slow down a bit and give you deeper kind of spicy depth in the fall, where the spring might go a little faster and it might be a little bit more floral. I mean, really technical, geeky stuff, but cool because it's a natural product. And that's why we have that transparency inside the bottle, inside the label, so that you can explore that and taste it. I remember I was at Bar Convent a couple of years ago, and I was at the Fortaleza table, tasted through everything, and I was like, "God, this is great! My God, your Blanco here tastes so incredibly different than the Blanco I have at home. I have like green, like reeds of grass and hay, and it's just this like." It's like my sort of spring allergy tequila. I really love it. And he's like, "That's awesome." And what I was drinking was just like full crush, gushy agave, cooked agave, and lime, and it was very different. And he goes, "Well, that's the point. Like, this isn't about making a uniform house style from bottle to bottle to bottle every time. It's about celebrating nature." And these brands, Alma Del Jaguar and G4 and Fortaleza, etc., they're part of that community that really celebrates the moment. And I think that's what you'll get out of it. Now, I know I went on a tangent. We kind of went on a tangent. We were at we pressed the agave, right?
Two things:
Two
fermenting
things.
natural,
Okay. All right.
natural,
Yes.
and
Okay.
natural. And I'll bring you back.
Yes.
Na-
Wild yeast.
wild yeast,
Sorry.
champagne yeast.
Right. So this is a blend of 80% wild yeast distillate and 20% champagne yeast distillate. Uh, and we found that that was the perfect blend. It was better than champagne yeast. It was better than straight wild yeast. That the 80-20 rule prevails again. And it really, really did great. The other thing that
But how you let that rest for how long before
in
you
the
bottle? Before you bottle?
actually, I don't know that
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, I know it's a couple days,
Okay.
but you know,
Just curious.
then we bottle. Yes. No, we don't
No.
distill together. We take 100% champagne yeast distillate and 100% wild yeast distillate, and then we blend them together, 80 wild, 20 champagne. Yeah. And then the key thing here is, remember I said copper, and you know, it's kind of has its own like filtration properties. We don't filter this. So just like G4 was a sort of guiding light in our journey. And we decided to do this unfiltered. So as you taste this, what
You get a different mouthfeel. It's got a creaminess to it. It's got a weight. It's got
weight?
gravitas
Yeah.
in the flavor.
Yeah, and it's almost oily. It's almost sticky. If it salud.
The finish is a while. Yes, sir. Use open stainless steel.
We're
or
only
open wood?
stainless steel. We're only stainless steel. And honestly, if you were doing a wood fermentation, what you would be doing is you'd be using an older wood. So you wouldn't be using a like a new wood. So I use a champagne reference. Krug, for instance, Krug champagne, when they're in the fermentation process, a portion of Krug is actually fermented in wood, another portion in stainless, and then is blended. But what you're doing in wood is you're really, you know, you're not using new wood on that side. You're trying to minimize the impact
It's
of
supposed
wood.
to be
It's
new,
more
even
about
though the wood.
oxygen.
It's the wood. It's its own microclimate. Or I don't know how you would say.
Well, there's more oxygen.
Like there's stuff going on in the wood.
In the wood, yeah.
But it's not the wood itself. It's not like it's not like a barrel situation,
Right.
where you're getting a finish off a barrel.
Right.
It's a completely different reason why you're doing it in wood.
There's a mouthfeel to it. I mean, I learned this in champagne that there's like two styles. There's one where everything's in stainless steel and you try to minimize oxygen, and then there's another where you would partially would ferment, and you're okay with oxygen being part of the.
That's a house style.
Yeah, and then
time.
you know one is sort of steely and really really focused on the mineral, and the other has this little bit of opulence and weight. You know, I mean, if you've tried Krug versus Ruinart, for instance, it's like there it is on display. Ruinart's like not about oxygen. It's about, you know, Premier Cru, beautiful Chardonnay, and then Krug is a little bit about bringing that oxygen in and bringing a little bit of the element of wood in, and it's fuller and bolder. One's feminine, one's masculine.
And it doesn't matter. And it's not one's better than the other. It's
No.
just a whole different technique and whole different way of looking at the product.
Yep. So
All right,
there's
what'd you guys think? What'd you guys think of the Blanco? Really good, right? Yeah. I mean, the finish is really long on this, and I think that little bit of oiliness really carries over and gives you a long finish on this too. It's a really nice Blanco.
Thank you. Yeah.
And anybody who does, you know, if you don't make a good Blanco, how can you make a good Reposado, Añejo, an extra Añejo? You got to start with something good. It's not going to get better.
Right.
I've never seen it get better. I've seen it get worse, but I've never seen it get better.
What's cool about the business is you get to meet a lot of people, and I met a gentleman in Chicago who owned a Mexican restaurant, who's from Mexico, who's from Jalisco, He told me the story about his grandpa and how he loved the Blancos and loved the Añejos, but he was never so much about the Reposados because this is the beginning and this is the end, and it's like a life. Um, and the one thing he said stuck with me, and I thought it was really, really cool. He's like, "Look, if I can't taste the presence of your Blanco through this, I'm not carrying any of them. That's that's that." He's like, because that means it's been manipulated or jacked with in some way. Like, you should have a really great Blanco that's strong, that has a presence and a personality that you can find through all of this. And as you taste, that presence of that sort of orange rind, it's there always. And that silkiness and that unctuous, like almost umami salinity that stays with you through all of these. So that was an interesting observation to
No,
hear.
no, I think that's apropos. The only ones of there's several places now that make uh, uh, different tequilas at that the blanco that they use to make blanco isn't the blanco that they're using for their reposado. They make basically
Interesting.
two different tequilas, and I've seen that happen too. But if you're doing it a traditional way, where you're just aging
Right.
that blanco, it needs to be there. It needs to still that spirit should continue on.
I would think in those instances the tequila brand has scaled to a production level where it's just not possible to use the Blanco across all three.
Right.
Right? Like,
Or you're doing it on purpose, and you're
or you're
telling
doing it
people
on purpose. That's
right?
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
sure.
Maybe at well,
Yeah,
Ocho does that. Different
yeah,
elevations,
yeah,
using different elevations to make different things. So,
sure.
all right. So let's try the
Okay.
reposado.
Sure.
See, I like the reposado because I think it carries that character of the blanco, and just gives me something new. And that's I don't know if I go across the board, I I, I like a lot of reposados. Is one of my favorite. I think my most favorite is blanco, but I like reposado. Sometimes Anejos can go too far.
Mhm.
And look, if you get into anything and you get all these different brands of tequila out there and stuff like that, here's my general rule of thumb: if your tequila tastes like a birthday cake, you need a new tequila because they're doing something to it to make it taste that way. Wood vanillins that you get from wood don't taste like birthday cake. It's a different type of vanilla. When you tasting, there's a difference.
Yeah,
It's like it artificial peach and peach taste different. You
definitely.
know what I mean? So always keep that in mind when you're drinking something inside of, you know, listen, you're making a heavy duty margarita and you're mixing all these like other ingredients that really don't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But if you're really making a really nice one, you want to still taste the tequila through it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, and a great, great, great margarita is just
I float it. I mean, it was like a margarita. I'm like, yeah, most of my margaritas really like if I make them,
yeah.
but there's a difference between when my wife makes them and I make them. She makes a great margarita, but mine are basically like tequila. And I wave a lime over it, and there's an orange involved somewhere in there.
It's like a dry martini.
Yeah, it's like, whoosh.
It's the
All
vermouth.
right, yeah, we're all set. Throw some ice in there, and good. I'm good to go.
That's great.
So, um, but you guys, I think that Blanco is really really good. So let's
Thank you.
try the Reposado.
So the reposado is the Blanco, right? You start with the Blanco, and then now you have to put it into wood. So we put the Blanco into American oak barrels that formerly had bourbon in them. We do it for 2 months. After 2 months, very in a wine like way, we rack out of the American oak and we transfer the liquid into French oak. And the French oak, as I said, had Santa Barbara Chardonnay in it. So when you nose this, I mean, you could almost
There's a lot other going on here. It's really cool.
yeah, you could smell that butterscotch caramel kind of thing like right there. But it's the orange. I get banana bread.
I like the finish too on this one.
It's just so enjoyable. This is just a great sipper.
What I like about it is you're not, and I find this in some of the other ones. I'm getting bourbon flavored tequila, and the bourbon is almost a little too much. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what the barrel they're using,
Right.
almost a little too much. And
Right.
this, it's sort of like, oh, I'm not getting as much of that bourbon flavor.
Right.
I'm getting some vanillins, but it's not crazy. I'm getting
Yep.
some other things in there. There's a depth to this that I don't think you find everywhere.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's
I don't really care what I think. What do you guys think? Yeah, good. Very nice, right? It's like he's just like an ice cube, and I'll make one of those Ryan margaritas. Ice cube, and I'll throw some lime over. I'll pass a lime over the top. I don't even touch it. Yeah.
um I I shouldn't. Yeah. That's like
There's no one. There's no one watching this. Just
yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah. Very, very good bourbon barrels. You just say that. Very good. And we're only using our
Well, usually I can say this: they're family owned bourbon barrels.
just gonna say.
There you go. All right. So now you know.
Um,
Now keep your mouth shut.
so we only use our bourbon barrels 3 times too. I think that's important too. So we use newer barrels. We don't keep them in the barrel very long. And when they're done, we wash the barrels and we lightly, ever so lightly, char the insides again. We use them, and after the third time, the plan is to just sell them because there's a lot of brands out there that want to use older barrels and have this really sort of traditional, pale, old school reposado with not much color, and that's fine too. I think they're kind of bookends. Uh, but I think for the most part, this has been a very, very good a good thing for the brand. It's been well received. Uh, I don't
No,
want
it
to get
sets
too
you,
much into ratings,
but
but
it sets you apart, though. I mean, using those Chardonnay barrels that are obviously set you apart.
yeah, Macaulay comes from a bourbon background, so he is very, very understanding of wood finish. Uh, in the future, we will have some really spectacular releases that will be in exotic woods,
Like a limited time editions.
limited editions,
Yeah.
500 6 packs, 1,000 6 packs. I probably shouldn't say anymore, but they're going to be really, really extraordinary. And I've tasted some of the juice, and I like mind blowing, really. So yes,
Is it is there regulation in Mexico what type of wood you can
right.
use? I'm just saying for the people on
Yeah,
Facebook. Sorry.
not one that I'm aware of. Everybody at the distillery, if we said, hey, we want to use spaceship wood, I'm making that up. Oh, you can't use spaceship wood because they're made of steel and aluminum and titanium and some other
Find spaceship wood.
fine spaceship wood. Yeah, I'm just making that
Got
up
it.
but if it were off the list, we would be told by the distillery, no, you can't go there. So we,
Yeah, you actually have two. You have two reigning forces. You do have the Mexican government, but
sure,
you also have your tequila maker. He's going to be like, no,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
I'm sure every once in a while, Macaulay and they butt heads and say
I
no.
don't know. I mean, Sergio Cruz is awesome. He's a legend. I mean, he's making.
He's not letting you use space wood.
He's not. No, we're not
No,
using.
no,
Although
space
I'm
wood.
going to suggest it.
All right. Well, there you
No,
go.
no, I'm kidding. He's doing great things with a lot of other tequilas brands that are out of the nom. The interesting thing is Tequila Matchmaker ranked distilleries. So there's about 253 distilleries in Jalisco. Tequila Matchmaker ranked about 185 that are worthy of even mention, and we were ranked number 11. So top 4%. Fortaleza was ranked number 1. Go figure. Their average point score on Tequila Matchmaker, if you took all of the panel scores and all of the community scores and you averaged them together across Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, and their high proof, they average 90 points as a brand. When you do that with us, we average 88 points. Proud of that.
That's not bad. That ain't
That's
bad.
not too shabby.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Because I think for real, true tequila enthusiasts that are on all things tequila, Tequila 101, all the different Facebook communities, what you kind of notice as you read through them is that like the sun in the solar system is kind of Fortaleza and how everything kind of relates relative to it. And I try to point that out to people who are learning about tequila to just say, hey, look, on a nice day with a great retailer, maybe you'll see Fortaleza for $74.99, blink. But in most places, as a consumer, when I go shop, it's $129 to $249. And, I've bought a couple at $124, $129.99 myself. And to be $49.99 to $79.99, to have that lane on a shelf across the country and to have that kind of quality in a bottle, it kind of gives you something that's like a Fortaleza quality and purity at a Don Julio price point. And I think that that's something that everybody could understand and appreciate.
This is where we get down to calling things shelf gems.
Yeah.
You can walk into a store, you can find it.
Yeah.
It's really good, and it's affordable, and you can find it. This is we go back to the early days of like bourbon and stuff like that. This is Fortaleza sat on the shelf. The tequila hasn't changed. We've changed. And people looking for it. The tequila itself hasn't changed. It sat there, and people are like, oh, this is a really good tequila. You tell people this is a really good tequila. You should try this one. And now I think a lot of stuff that we do as retailers is tell like very slowly if somebody really knows what they're drinking and knows what they're doing, you sort of go like, you should try that one. You gotta you don't want you gotta be careful because all of a sudden you can help start a rush on something that you can't and create another problem where you can't get it. It's like that's a really good tequila. If you're looking for that you should try this. And we do that all the time because there are those brands. Does everybody also understand the NOM? What we're talking about, the NOM? Those are all distillery. Every distillery in we have it here in the United States too. Every distillery has a number. All right, the distillery NOM is their number, and you can actually go look up by their NOM what brands they produce, and they produce different brands for different people, and they do produce stuff in different ways. There usually is a common element through them, but if you come in and you contract as one of these distilleries to do tequila in a certain way, that's what you're going to get. And there was ones that do better than others. There's not many that will slow and low cook, agave that long because it's just not productive. I mean, it's all about getting as much sugar out in there, fermentable, that turns into alcohol that you can call tequila because you can only produce so much tequila out of Jalisco. So that's what it's all about. So there are in different NOMs that you'll find that produce like some of these certain brands that actually want to have things at a elevated level. You're going to go try to get to certain distilleries that will actually do that, and that's what the NOM is.
Yeah, and there's some NOMs that produce up to 300 brands. I mean, you already know. Somebody said, "I have a tequila." I'm like, "How do you have a tequila?" "Oh yeah, it's right here behind my bar." Was in New York, and I said, hold on for a second. I pulled out my cell phone, I put the NOM in, and I go, "Because you want to try it?" I go, no, thanks. He goes, "Why?" I go, "They make are you aware they make 299 other brands?" Like, no, you should have known before you
pay your money, take your chances.
I mean, come on, it's just it's
not everybody gets to meet Mario in a bar and he goes, "Hey, my friend over here makes like really great tequila and I can introduce you." You
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
that karma doesn't usually always happen. That's the type of thing.
And to your point at the beginning, I guess when you're on a journey of something positive and good, you know, that's intended to be good and well, you know, I guess that's where it leads you, you know, as opposed to, hey, I want to make some money. Like, you know, then you're like, I have too many tequilas, you know, like I don't need another one of those. I don't need another something that's like everything else.
Yeah, because certain because of the facility, you can only make things certain ways. You know what I'm saying? There's not that much of a variation that you can put into because you're producing so much. It has to be within this type of window.
Right.
Here's how it has to be done.
Right.
We're going to use, this is how we're going to cook.
Well, if we're making 300 brands,
got it
we're
right.
we're going to do it this fast, this way.
This way.
What do you want it to taste like? Put a label on it. If you're you know,
we got some caramel coloring and some natural vanilla flavoring.
Yeah.
That we can add to that.
Right. Or whatever. You know, I want it to taste like peach. I want it to taste like coconut. I want it to taste like chewing gum. Like, fine. Do your thing. But you know, when you're like, hey, I really want to just represent nature here, and I want to yield the maximum amount of extraction.
But if you want to differentiate yourself, you're doing that actually through your wood finish.
Here, yeah,
yeah. This is, I mean, that's
even on the base distillate. We've done
part
that.
of it. That's part of it. You're doing natural champagne yeast and a natural yeast,
wild yeast, yes,
wild yeast, I should say, and you're doing that. So let's. I want to try the añejo. Now I'm excited.
Oh, I love this. Just try it first. Moment of silence.
It's like a butterscotch on that nose, right? Anybody else getting that?
Heck yeah. So Julio's will be doing a single barrel añejo, which is insane.
We'll tell a little bit.
But so
before we leave tonight, we'll tell you a little bit about that.
It's being bottled now.
I'm gonna have that behind my bar and go, well, I have a tequila.
A good one. A good one.
I have a tequila too.
All right. So we'll get into that, but I want to tell you about what you're tasting. So if you get this, I mean, this is a very elegant añejo. It's elegant. And it starts with this sort of, I mean, you still taste that salt, right? That saltiness is still there all the way through, which is a testament to how you start, right? And how you finish. But I get this sort of this lightness, this almost like air popcorn, rice cake, caramel, and then that beautiful butterscotch halo. All of that through tasting the single barrels, I could tell you, because we have French añejo single barrels and we have American ones. Those are all distinctively notes from the French barrels. And then as you kind of transition into the bolder notes, there's almost like a toasted marshmallow you might get, or a creme brulee, some caramel, and definitely this sort of cream soda and this sort of Cracker Jack peanut shell, sort of peanut brittle on the end, and a little bit of coconut husk or toasty coconut. That's all the American oak. When you taste the American oak barrels, you get more of those. Yeah, you get those notes. And you picked a great barrel.
What do you guys think of this? And that's really good. And what I like about it, it's really there's not a lot of other tequilas that have that sort of flavor combo. And rightfully so, because of the way they're doing it. Yeah.
Okay, so great point, age. Sorry I overlooked age. Big, important point. So this first, let's start with the percentage of French to American oak. 35% of this is French oak. 65% of this is American oak.
And I'm going to answer Lisa's next question before we even start. When we did the reposado, they were moving the tequila itself from bourbon barrels to French barrels, right?
Yeah.
I'm not French. Yeah, French barrels, but,
Yeah.
but Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Now they're storing them separate.
Yeah.
There's the tequila in American barrels in both wild and champagne, right?
Well, the distillate for
It's
both
still
of them
80-20.
It's this.
It's the 80-20.
So this is the distillate,
Right,
right?
but they're putting them in different barrels now.
Correct.
So now Lisa, now you're blending barrels.
You're blending
Okay.
barrels, right? And the average age of the barrels, to simplify this, okay, the youngest of the barrels is 15 months. The oldest of the barrels is 25 months, right? Across French and American, right? And then, but here's a great story. So Macaulay and Sergio Cruz were deciding on the final blend. And they had put a bunch of blends together. They picked their top 10. And they were asked to rank them in order 1, 2, 3 through 10. When they looked, they said, God, you guys both ranked number 1 the same, number 2 the same, and number 3 the same. Let's see if you really know what you're talking about. They went back. They put a bunch of other ones back in, mixed them up, do it again. And they both picked 1, 2, and 3 exactly the same again. And they basically said, number 1, this is the blending percentage. And the interesting thing when we were tasting some of the single barrels, it's a lot to expect of a single barrel to do everything for you, because this is
It's
a
not
blend
designed to.
No, yeah, it's just this is that barrel over here, over there. One's French, one's American. When you taste through single barrels, you really realize the mastery that goes behind blending and being present and really tasting something that doesn't necessarily taste good to you alone, but thinking about how that will play in the complex myriad of blending. Because we tasted 1 or 2 barrels, we're like, but it's like, hey, in this case, I know that Macaulay said there was 1 barrel he tasted that was sort of green pickle and honeydew rind and very sort of off-putting alone. But when he said, if I blend that in, it'll be like taking a flabby, overripe Cabernet and putting something that has this electric acid in it to just give it a spine. They blended it in, and there you go. This is the one that they picked number 1. So not something that you might overlook on its own when blended
It's
together.
how the puzzle pieces fit together.
It's exactly right. It's just it's such an amazing journey.
It's a different mindset. Like we pick a lot of barrels. That's a different mindset than when I go in to blend something together.
Sure.
It's even a different mindset when I go into do micro batching, which is only 2 barrels together. You're trying to fit pieces in that's making it's the sum of the bigger than the sum of the parts, right?
Right.
And the other part of that too is, in a good blender, I don't care who he is or who she is not blending for herself or himself.
Right.
She's blending for you guys. Right. So it's also that fine line where you're trying to make something that tastes really great, but you're trying to make something that's going to really taste great for a lot of people.
Right.
And no one's the same. Your palates are not the same. Period. So you're trying to that's the lightning in the bottle aspect of it. You're trying to catch that.
Yeah.
And how many people can I get to like this?
It's amazing.
Right? So that's really cool. What did you guys think of this one? Me and Yayo. Really, I really like this, and I'm not a big Añejo fan.
Right.
I still like the Blanco the best.
Yeah.
But I do like this, and because I love the complexity of the flavors.
Yeah.
It's really good, and that's how he's getting other flavors is the barrels. The barrels, yes, and the yeast. The reposado.
What was the percentage?
The percentage there isn't, because
No,
what
yeah.
they're doing is they're taking the Blanco and they're putting it all in bourbon barrels. All of it is going in bourbon barrels, and then they're siphoning it off the bourbon barrels into the French oak that held Chardonnay,
from Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara Chardonnay. So it's a different process. They're using two different processes. One is just taking that and then moving it over, and then in añejo, they're actually storing it in those They're storing the 80-20, the natural and champagne yeast, or the wild and the champagne yeast, and they're making that blanco, but they're storing them in different barrels, and then they're blending them together afterwards. Do you guys understand?
He's pretty good.
You guys understand that? There'll be a quiz after this. Yes. So, all right. So now for something completely different.
Yes.
Let's talk to Nocturne.
Okay. So this guy, Nocturna, inverted label here, day, night, if you will.
When the cat goes hunting.
The cat goes to hunt. Nocturna, exactly. And we just thought of this, as the sort of ultimate expression of wild yeast. So what we wanted to do here was let's let it go full throttle. And so we had this at 101 proof, which is roughly 51% alcohol. So what you have is 11% less well water, right?
Right.
So what you're getting here, and you're getting complete, you're getting the season really full throttle here. So this was October 22nd, 2024 at 12:41 p.m. And what you have here is just this insane crushed agave.
Now you're getting those like peppers and
a lot of spice.
Can I smell salt? Because I smell salt. Do you guys smell right? Do you smell it?
Oh yeah.
It's just that's me, right?
And you're right about not only black and white pepper, but jalapeno pepper.
Oh yeah.
A lot of these green notes kind of come out here nice. It was like melon rind and green melon.
Salted melon.
Salt, yeah.
That finish on that is just, I love this one. I love, this is I told you before, I'm sort of a Blanco. I like Blanco tequilas. This one to me is just one of the most flavorful Blanco tequilas I think I've ever had. Just so much going on.
Thank you.
I was supposed to tell you to save a little of the first one so you can go back and try it against this. There's a huge difference. Oh yeah, no, this is a completely different tequila than the Blanco.
This is 100% wild. There's no champagne.
There's no champagne yeast at all. Right.
Yeah.
The 20% champagne does make it makes a huge difference because this is what you're having. But also you got to think it too is the more alcohol too that you're getting in this too. Right. That's another 11 points. That's a big difference there. And a lot of that carries not only just alcohol with it, carries flavor too. And the fact that they're not this is unfiltered. Yeah, that's another big thing. You start unfiltering natural yeast finished and all this stuff and distilled, natural yeast distilled and stuff like that, you're going to get a lot more flavor out of that.
Yeah, it's all in there. Today, Nick and I were in the car and I checked my email. I got an email from the Rob Report. I'm like, Rob Report? Why would they email me? It says, congratulations. We're excited to share that Alma Del Jaguar Nocturna, what we're drinking now, has been selected as a winner in Rob Report's 50 Greatest Tequilas. We compiled a list of the greatest tequilas released since 2000, selected based on flavor, quality, availability, and overall significance in shaping the modern tequila landscape, et cetera, et cetera. But last year, this time, it was a Rolling Stone email. I'm like, Rolling Stone? You won Best Reposado in our 2024 Spirits Awards. So, I couldn't.
The brand is not that old.
No, it's 2 years.
I mean, you guys got to remember
old.
this. So, you're like, I never heard of this. Why is this happening? Why, it's because the brand itself is not that old. The whole conceptual part of this is not that old. So,
it's really kind of going back to the way tequila as Mexico intended it is one of the things we said when when we started. That
But you know what's funny? It's not even the way they intended it. It's how you had to make it.
it's how you had to
I
make
mean,
it.
there
Right.
really is no like we're only going to do it this way. No, no, this is how you did things. Like I filter. What the hell's a filter?
Right.
You know, a yeast, champagne yeast. What's champagne yeast?
Right.
You put it out there and it'll start fermenting on its own. Don't worry about it. You know.
It's true.
So like it's one of those type of things when you look at like an old farmer's almanac, or you start talking about like old farmers in France and how they're making stuff. It's like they just like it's been ingrained in them for so long and so traditional. This is how you make things. And that, and we talk about biodynamics. We talk about that. Yeah, like how everybody used to make things.
Mhm.
It's a fancy word on it, but it just goes back to you had to make it that way. There wasn't a choice. You didn't have all
Sure.
these other things that are going on.
And to Sergio Cruz's credit, if you look at Nom 1414 and you look at the other really great brands that come out of there, you'll notice they don't taste like this.
No, he made something
he,
different.
He makes something different. I had God, what's the Siempre Vivo? I think it's called. It's like their high proof. It's $144 a bottle, and just like chicken bone soup in it, like dried, like almost old school, like chicken bones that were put into like a soupy broth. It's like I'm getting all these completely different flavors that are layered and extracted and just joyously different. And I'm going, wow, what an absolute conductor he is. He really is one of the great talents. They call him the Mozart of tequila. It's kind of the nickname because everything in the Vivanco distillery, when it's fermenting, has Mozart music playing, inclusive of this. He feels that it stimulates the cells to dance, and they
I don't care how he does the voodoo that he does. Just keep doing the voodoo that you do.
That's it. It's a good voodoo.
So, all right,
Yeah.
listen, hey Joe, I
Yeah.
want to thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming by tonight. I really
Thank
want to
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks
And
very much.
before we end though,
Yeah.
I should tell you we did pick a single barrel tequila.
Yes.
It will be coming out, and we did use the French oak. We picked a barrel from the French oak, and we had quite a few to choose from.
Yeah.
This barrel I think I just thought was just dynamite. Picking
Oh,
a
there
single,
it is. There.
I have a little.
Oh,
You
it's
notice
gone.
it's empty.
It's
So
gone. Can I see the bottle?
yeah, sure, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
right. All right. So
It's empty
it is
because
the
we finished
French
it this
oak
weekend.
barrel 94.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah, and it's at 43.1%. So this is at a higher proof. So
When
that'll
we
be about
tried that
88.
one against the other ones, and again, it's a very different thing when you start picking a single barrel. The single barrel has to do everything.
Everything.
I can't change anything, so it really has to do everything. So you really have to dig through and figure out which one you're taking. This, I know there's some other barrels in there that other people are going to pick, and I know why. But when we hit this one, I was like, that represents that sort of the French Chardonnay with the Chardonnay. It just really sort of came together. I think you guys are really gonna like it, and it's called Le Tigre,
It's great.
the tiger,
Yeah.
in French. Because why would you not? Because it's in French barrels. It was French, so it came out with the French name. So I think you guys are really gonna like it. It is an añejo, so when that does come in, you'll obviously get first dibs at it. For being at this tonight. We have all your emails. We'll send it to you first before everybody else. So you can put that. And that one, what we will do, we were so hoping that we were going to have a bottle here tonight. We couldn't do it. So there will be a bottle open when so you can purchase it. Satisfaction guaranteed. You come in, we'll have a bottle open. You try it. You don't like it, we'll give you your money back. You can't go and take your bottle home and then open it. But we'll have a bottle here. You can open and stuff. Joe, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I think everybody tonight.
Thanks. Thank you all.
You guys hold on. Thank you everybody on Facebook. It was great. I'm glad you could do it. If you want to go see this again, go to It's the Liquor Talking wherever you get your podcast. It'll be Cousin Vinny. We'll get that up there soon. It was fantastic. It was a great thing. I hope you enjoy watching it, but you should have been here. It was awesome.
Thanks.